Look, I just have to say one thing before this whole thing starts. This movie
Welcome back to Flick and Reel, and I echo everything that she said right over here. I totally agree. I wouldn't say that I was like looking forward to this movie. I didn't really know too much about it other than the mild teasers they had put out. It's like, oh, it's another Predator movie. Cool. Hopefully, it's better than the Predator in 2018. Because that movie was terrible. And it was.
I didn't think it was that bad. I enjoyed myself in that. Yeah. Maybe it's because I was still on the high of like Sterling K. Brown and This Is Us.
Saying the word fuck as often and as much as possible.
Because he couldn't do it on NBC, so I got to see a whole different side of him.
That was literally the only he read the script and he was like 2 pages in. He's like, sold, fucking sold, fucking let's fucking do this fucking movie. Fuck.
All the F-bombs, I'm in.
This review is not for children's ears, by the way. Unless, you choose to
put let them. E. Put a little E on it.
E for everyone? E for explicit. Perfect. So where did you know about this movie, Prey? By the way, we're reviewing the movie Prey, which just came out on Hulu from Dan Trachtenberg, which is essentially a prequel to all the Predator movies because it's set in the past. It's set 300 years in the past in the early 1700s. Mm-hmm. What was your exposure? What was your knowledge of this movie before it popped off?
None
at all.
I had heard about it amongst some friends, but hadn't really known what it was or what was going on with it. Didn't even know that it was part of the Predator franchise until probably the other day. Okay. And then when I heard it came out, I was like, I gotta watch it. Why not? Whatever. Anything with violence and Predator, I'm in. Looks like there's some badass chick on the front. Like, sign me up. Let's go.
So you hadn't seen you hadn't seen the teasers?
No, I didn't watch a trailer. I didn't watch a teaser, nothing. I went in completely blind. I had no clue, zero, what was going on. Only that it was a Predator movie taking place about 300 years before the first Predator film in the franchise. And that was it. And I only knew that yesterday before I watched it.
Perfect. Well, I guess it'd be 270, 80, 90, 60 years. Because the Predator came out in 1987. This was set in 19, I believe was the year. So
the article I read was 300-ish. So.
About 300. And you know what, that works out. That's fine. So, we basically jump in and we follow a tribe of Comanche warriors. And you see that from the jump. Do we have the main character's name? Right,
Naru. Amber, right.
Amber Midthunder. I knew
Amber
the actress
Midthunder plays Naru.
Okay.
And then her brother, that is Hunter Dakota Beavers. He's badass.
Yeah.
In all of this. I don't remember his name though, but I'm looking it up.
I was trying to remember if they refer to her as an actual character name or if they just if she's just the protagonist essentially of the story.
No, yeah. They definitely they call her Naru and he Tabe is her brother.
Okay.
Yes.
Right on. And so basically she's trying to prove herself, right? She you can tell from the jump she's not okay with just being let me just be the woman of the tribe.
Let me just be a gatherer. She has the war paint on when we first see her. She sleeps in it. All she wants to do is hunt. And I love the part where when she comes back after almost getting a deer and even her mom's almost and then asks her, why do you want to hunt? And she looks at her mom, she goes, because all of you say I can't do it. And I was
basically, I'm going to prove you wrong. Why do you want to do it?
Yes.
You said I can't.
Yes, exactly.
That's such a human nature type thing too. Say I won't. And watch what I do.
Tell me I can't do it. Exactly. 100%.
I'm gonna prove you wrong. I really love that. That was cool. She wanted to step up and prove herself and be the person. Whether or not it was for the tribe in general or just for her own bolstering of her own confidence.
Yeah,
that was really cool. And she proves it too from the beginning. Like, and the first hunt is like they're going after this lion that's taking out other villagers, not the warriors. And
right.
we don't find out until later in the movie, but during the battle with the lion, she is the reason that her brother was actually able to take it down, because he admits it later on. He didn't admit it at first to the tribe. He admits it to her later on. Like, I only got him because you injured it, and you basically like did 90% of the job.
Yeah, I just took all the credit for it, which it's what I would have done. Like, if given the way that roles were back then, it makes sense. It's very true.
They grow up that way. They're meant for that.
Yeah. But then even kind of getting into it, so I got to talk about this predator itself.
Yeah.
And how cool he looked. And it's so fun to see a prequel predator, because like that's the whole point of them, right? Like, they come back and they evolve. Like, every single time that they come back, they figure out what the technology is, how they're gonna hunt people, what they use, what can become more advanced. So like the predator that we got in 1987's Predator looks completely different than the one that we got in 2018, and now this one, like the way that his helmet was, like that super cool bone helmet, made me think of like this predator evolved from like caveman days, and now we're here. And that was the style that he came up with, or they evolved with, to this day and age, that 1700s.
The predators themselves are a hunting, they share a lot of that like same drive as like the Comanche tribe that we see, is that where they are hunters, like that they want to prove themselves, and that's why they fight the aliens in the AVP franchise universe that they're in. And that's why they go to these planets and they have these hunting grounds, like we saw in Predators, where they have all these, they plucked out badass warriors from around the world and dropped them on this planet, or I guess around the galaxy. There's more than one.
Yeah, because yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I'd imagine, that this wasn't maybe the first time that this predator specifically has been to Earth. Maybe he has been there before and taken out the people and evolved, and he takes his traits back to his own tribe, and then he comes back to Earth for round 2 type of thing. Who knows what kind of backstory he had?
I know. He just shows up. It's great.
Let's do the next Predator movie from the actual vantage point of the predator. Like, let's get their dialogue. Let's get their communication.
Why they keep coming down and killing us?
I'd actually, what? Let me pitch that. Dan Trachtenberg, if you're watching this, like, do another movie.
He's reading he's watching all these reviews.
Yeah, do it from that vantage point of a group of predators, and actually dub in, or not dub in, but like a dialogue in their actual communication. I would love that. That'd actually be cool for the next.
I'm into it.
Round.
I'd watch it. So you've seen all the other four films in this franchise.
If you're not counting the AVP movies, you get Predator, Predator 2, Predators, and The Predator. Right. But then mixed in the middle of there, you got AVP, so Alien versus Predator, and then you have AVP Requiem, which is terrible. So I guess technically 6 movies prior to this, if you're not counting the Alien movies.
You ready for all the ones that I've seen? I've seen Predator, The Predator, and Prey. So I've missed everything else in the middle.
So it is safe to say this is your favorite of the 3?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I like Predator for what it is. Like, the OG Predator, I love the over-the-top 80s-ness of it. Sure. I also love that we get the same line from that Predator. And pretty much, I mean, from in almost every Predator film, from what you were telling me, it kind of comes up in some way, shape, or form, where someone's like, can we even kill it? And then someone replies, it bleeds. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Like, or some way in that way it gets said. And I was like, yes. Because like, that's like a good, like, fuck yeah kind of moment. Like, okay, they're really gonna go. Right. And I love the play off of the original Predator movie in the sense of like getting down to like one person, that one person is using all of their resources around them, and how the resources are different in Prey versus in Predator.
Right.
Because she doesn't have the technology as much as they have in that one. So it's a completely different ballgame of like what she uses to cool her body down, because they're still, tracking people off of body heat. So she uses medicine Arnold used the mud
Right.
and the water. So like
She had
I
this
think
orange flower thing.
yeah. So being able to kind of see that and kind of almost get not like shot for shot kind of thing, but like it definitely pays homage to that solo fighter taking
Mhm.
out the predator at the end, and I just thought that was so cool.
That's a trope in all the Predator movies, but it works so well. Like you
Yeah.
get that Adrian Brody in Predators. You get that same thing with Danny Glover in Predator 2, where essentially it's always the last man standing. All right, how am I going to overcome? And they always do.
And this time it was a woman, and she was badass as fuck.
She
when
was
she
super
walks
badass.
back, when she shows back up, and she has the gun and the head, and just like throws the head down, like what?
What?
Like no one cares. No one cares about like what that is. What they all end up caring about is she hands over the gun, and she's like, "We need to find somewhere else to go." Like, because that's the actual real threat that's coming for them.
It's not safe here, basically.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the gun too, and that
Yeah.
pistol. It was we didn't know where it came from. From 1990 when Predator 2 came out, but that was a callback to the end of Predator 2. If you've not seen the movie, Danny Glover wins. He beats the predator that he was fighting, and then like he's in their ship, and there's fog everywhere. It's all mysterious and stuff. And he finally beats the predator, and he's just standing there, and he's exhausted. And then all of a sudden, there's like 7 predators who all decloak at the same time. And
shit.
he's like, what the fuck? Like he's like, I thought I just killed this one. No, there's like 10 more literally surrounding him in this room.
Whoa.
But they're like, all right, respect, because you're a warrior and you beat our guy. So they pick up the dead predator's body and carry him out like on a warrior's funeral. And one of the predator walks up to Danny Glover and hands him this exact same pistol as like a token, basically. Like that's his prize. That's his, his shiny souvenir, basically.
Okay.
And you're like, oh, okay, so they've been here for a hot minute. They've been here for 300 years or so, or they've been back and forth.
Right.
Now we know why. And that kind of sets up this movie for a sequel, because at the end of this movie, she has the pistol. She gives it to her tribal leader. So how does it fall back into the hands of the predators? So that they can give it to Danny Glover.
Yeah. I also like how they come to the realization of like what this predator is doing, because they're all hunters, right? Like Comanche warriors and the tribe itself. The part that we're following are the warriors, so they know when they're being hunted or if they're hunting. Like they're able to get to figure that out. So they're able to know. They realize when they're being used as bait, the predator doesn't want them.
Right.
Because just like when she got caught in the first time she gets caught in the trap, and the predator walks by and holds up the chain, and he's like, well, fuck this. I don't want to do that. And so she explains to her brother, like, hey, we're not a threat. Like we're here, we're using his bait. Like he's not going to get us. And then he just goes and wrecks shop. Like the violence in this movie was insane.
It was. But to top what you're touch what you just said. That's a topic, that's a common theme throughout all the movies, where the predator doesn't go after like women, like not to be like stereotypical in that way, or misogynist, like just women, like lesser physical beings, I suppose, because he doesn't see them as a threat.
Right.
Or if you don't have a weapon, essentially. If you're injured, if you don't have a weapon, if you're a smaller person, typically the predators weren't going after those people in like a setting. They were always going after the biggest, like physically the biggest and baddest type of thing. Because they wanted to test themselves, so they would. They did that in AVP. They did that in the first Predator movie. They ignored the people who were either tied up and bound or whatever. They moved past it.
Sure. No, I mean it makes sense. That's the whole point of what the Predator is. Is proving that he's the greatest predator.
Well, and the first time we actually see the Predator like fighting, or at least that our main character sees it, is the big ass bear in the water next to like the beaver dam or whatever. And
man,
just like, and stands up, picks up the bear, blood dripping, all over his cloak and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god, with his big sharp hooks.
That was super cool. If you've never played, anyone who's watching, if you've never played Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West, which is the sequel, it's all about a woman hunter named Aloy, and she's basically surviving, kind of similar to like what the Comanches are doing here. She has a bow and arrow. She parkours all over everything, and that's like so much of what this movie was just she was running, she was sliding, pulled out the bow and arrow, like shooting shots. She was jumping off of trees, and so it was like really fun to see just all of the acrobatics of the fighting style too, against like the bigger brute of the Predator. Versus like her, where she's like small, nimble, but she can get into places that he couldn't, which is what we see kind of in like the final fight at the end.
Yeah, and then I think it's also important to note too, in this whole sense with the entire cast that were part of the Comanche tribe, all being Native American descent, were cast.
Yeah. Oh, the actors themselves.
All the the actors themselves are all of Native American descent. So. I think that is super important because it's so easy to get into stereotyping natives, right? Like we see it all the time, but actually the representation that this movie has, I think, is a huge step forward in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. Shout out to Dan Trachtenberg too, and the rest of the producers at Hulu, Fox. I think it was 20th Century Films, and so like they did a great job at properly portraying, and not like trying to like stunt cast or whitewash a role or anything like that. They did. I think they did a really good job. And it plays true to also the way that Hulu released the movie with a Comanche dub over, which we were having a debate the other night on Speakeasy as well about whether they basically filmed every scene twice with actual Comanche dialogue. They didn't. It looks like they dubbed over the dialogue,
cool,
which is fine, but at least that's an option.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool.
I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool that they did that. I actually did not know that. I think, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it's an option when you go on Hulu. There's a Comanche version.
Oh, that's cool.
Dub version. What did you think? So we talked about the Predator himself. This is definitely a different style of Predator, the actual warrior. We've seen so many because we obviously have the original. Which is very similar to the second film, essentially the same, but you see slightly different versions, like some are taller, some are bigger, wider, etc. In Predators with Adrian Brody, specifically, there's like 4 specific style of Predators. There's a Tracker, Berserker, Classic, and there's one more I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's why it has the S on it, I'm assuming.
Because there's multiple ones.
Because there's more than one.
Exactly.
Look at me, I'm a detective.
Yes, and they all, they're all predators, but just like human beings, we are different people, different like sizes, shapes, etc. So you would imagine the same would be about any alien
for
species. Sure. But this guy was cool, and he didn't have like a metal helmet. You could tell his gear was more old, like he had the bone helmet, so it wasn't like quite as refined. He had that badass shield, which he was chopping people's head off.
Yes, and it was cutting through rock, as it almost like that scene made me like when she was in between the 2 rocks to get away from like getting her head chopped off.
It was so confining and like claustrophobic. Yeah, you're like, oh no, it's about to happen. And then the 3 lasers too from his bone helmet weren't shooting laser beams. They were shooting like basically darts or like arrows essentially. Yeah. But they would return back. They were like heat seeking or whatever. That was really cool.
That was cool. I definitely think that like in this sense because again, the fighting styles and how they're going to do things is going to change and evolve over years. So in this one, like he's kind of in like, I feel like we see him a lot more not being invisible and fighting than we did in like Predator.
Okay.
Like I feel like he exposes himself a lot more, and he's a lot more brute strength aggressive versus scooping people up and like killing them away. Like he like is out there like, no, like I'm gonna fuck you up.
He basically staring people down and challenging them. Especially there's the scene in The Mist with the French people where they're all shooting bullets at him. He's just like taking it with his shield, like Wonder Woman style. He's just like, oh, I got this, and then just walking straight towards them. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna try to reload? No, I'm gonna come at you before you get a chance to.
Yep, and then that's also something that clearly they'll end up taking with them is the way that guns were used back in that time, right? That's not efficient. It's not efficient to shoot arrows and bring them back. That's cool, but like, it's more efficient than reloading a gun.
Is he gonna take it back? Because how is he gonna? He's dead.
Well, you know what I mean.
Unless they were watching, because they could have been surveilling the whole, the whole process. They could. I bet his spaceship is just hovering, just watching. Maybe that'll be the opening scene of Prey
everything. It looks like I mean, I feel like he probably records everything that's coming. So whatever is coming from his helmet is getting uploaded somewhere because they have to evolve eventually. So information is getting around.
It's getting back to the people who need it, or the other predators who need it. That's going to be very true.
They're probably going to realize when he doesn't return that he got fucked up.
Right. The only detraction, I suppose, I would say about the movie is the Predator. Well, I mean, it's not all perfect, right? It's not a 10 out of 10 movie. Is how indestructible the Predator was when it came to slowing him down before he actually finally dies. And what I mean that in the sense of he kind of got fucked up by the bear, but then he just stood right back up and killed the bear. He was getting fucked up by the brother, and he just shrugged. He literally, like, he got stabbed in the leg, he got stabbed in the foot. There was no limping, there was no like, oh, that hurt, like there was no pain showing. And then he got his arm cut off by her in that final fight, and he just straight up turned and just kept fighting, like without like wincing in pain. So it was just a little bit of more like body language choreography where I'm like, hey, if you're getting hurt, like show the pain a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
I can see
that and that was my problem with like the Batman, was I thought Robert Pattinson's the Batman was a little too indestructible. Like he was getting fucked up for 3 hours in the movie, but there was nothing that actually fazed him. He just kept walking through all the pain. So it's a very minor gripe. The Predator itself is still a badass in this movie.
Oh yeah,
sure. Just not as enough of a badass to, to win the fight.
It's okay. You can show emotion, sir. Yeah, just saying.
Exactly. Just show it hurts. It's okay to cry. It's okay, just cry.
It's okay to cry a little.
Let it all out, buddy.
No. It's okay to cry a little. Yeah, I could understand that. I guess. I mean, in my head, it's the Predator, so he doesn't. The Predator's like Dalton in Roadhouse, where pain don't hurt.
Sure, but even in the first Predator movie, like there's a scene where he's doing like medical triage on himself.
Yeah,
like just a little. It's a little bit of a thing, I don't know. He was just walking through all the pain, so the blood was flying, but it didn't mean anything. So that there was no weight behind any injuries until he eventually died at the end. That was all. Very minor. Last thing I'll end it on positive too was just the cinematography, I think, of the movie.
It's beautiful.
Especially for relatively low budget. I didn't look up the actual budget of the movie, but it's a streaming movie, and with no major name actors. I'd imagine it didn't have a huge budget. It looked gorgeous. You could tell they just took a 4K camera out to the plains, and they were just like, let's just film like the landscape
on top of these mountains. And oh my god, it was stunning. Especially like when things were all and you can see the stark difference between when like white man shows up and like what they've done to the territory around them versus where the Comanche were and how they were handling the land and what they were doing. And I love that they did that, and they made it look so starkly different when it's all just in the exact same area. And just how, I mean, the film itself, especially during all the scenes with the Comanche when they're out hunting, or when she's just walking around with her dog, who does live.
Yes.
Just so everyone knows.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Lives. So like, don't worry, dog will be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the way that this film was shot was just absolutely gorgeous. It was beautiful.
Amazing. The first like 15 to 20 minutes or so, just like it was when it was like a lot of setup, but it was just like showing the village and the land they lived on. It was top notch.
Gorgeous. Absolutely. Gorgeous.
Anything last moments before we hop out of here? And thank everyone for, while you're wrapping up, make sure you like the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, come back for more. We have lots of good stuff going on. Any last thoughts about the movie?
I can't wait to watch it again and really kind of dive deeper into everything with it. And then it really does make me want to go and watch the other films within this franchise that I haven't seen. Yeah.
Shout out to a friend of the channel, PJ Campbell. He loves Predator 2. I think it's his number one of all the Predator movies.
Yeah.
This one might be competing with that, but we were having a discussion about that too. He was like, I will not take the slander on Predator 2 any longer. I thought it was fine. It had Gary Busey in the movie, so it's top notch. It's fantastic.
It's always top notch. But yeah, no, I think it was an amazing. I loved it. I think it was, and it's a fun summer movie. Like, it's a good summer, just blockbuster, quick watch, fuck them up kind of thing. And
like an hour 40?
Yeah, and I'm living for it. I love it. I thought it was great.
Right on. Well, you can follow me at Sean Wingblade on Twitter. You don't have to follow me on Instagram. I never post anything there. But you can follow me on Twitter, where I'll tweet out random dumb shit. Like, hey, I'm watching The Godfather for the first time.
Weird.
No one ever told me about this movie.
Crazy.
I got a few more likes on that tweet than I thought I would. I thought that was kind of funny. Allison, where can we find you on the internet?
You can also find me on Twitter at Allison Salamoni, and you can also find You've Never Seen It on Twitter at Never Seen It FNR, which all episodes drop right here on this channel. Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays.
Wednesdays when I remember to upload the video, and before I fall asleep at night, and I go, sorry.
Before all of that, if you subscribe to Flick and Reel wherever you get your audio podcasts, you can catch that every single Tuesday.
Yeah, and make sure to subscribe to this very channel. You can catch all those things. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye.